Hello, this is my online presentation and I'll talk about the failure of international laws on the Israel-Palestine conflict. So first, let's share some background. It happened historically during World War II, where there was a rise in large-scale Jewish migration to Palestine as a means to flee Nazism in Europe. In 1947, the United Nations adopted Resolution 181, which called for the partition of Palestine into Arab and Jewish states, handing over about 55% of the land to Jews. This enabled the formation of Israel on 14 May 1948. The state of Palestine massively suffered and more than 750,000 Palestinians were ethnically cleansed from their homes by Zionist military. By 1967, 300,000 Palestinians were displaced. In those years, multiple wars and conflicts were fought, but tensions wrapped up on October 7, 2023, when Hamas, a Palestinian resistance group, attacked Israel on that day, taking up to 251 hostages. That particular attack triggered a massive military offense in Gaza by the Israeli military that is still going on 2 years from now. The attacks were so severe that from 50 days of October 7th, about 15,000 Palestinians were killed. 2 years since the attack, Israel has reportedly killed 68,172 Palestinians. So, what is international law? There are formal rules that usually cover areas such as human rights, war, trade, and diplomacy that are legally binding. There is no world government or global police force, thus the existence of bodies such as the United Nations Security Council, international courts such as International Court of Justice between states, and International Criminal Court, usually war crimes and genocide, are formed from it. So, the question everyone will ask, is Israel breaching international law? Let's first look at genocide. As defined by the UN, a genocide means any of the following acts committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group. The International Court of Justice, ICJ, has reportedly stated that genocide is a crime prohibited under international law. About 70% killed in Gaza were women and children, according to Gaza's Ministry of Health. An element of genocide, according to UN, is imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group. Killing women who bear these children and killing the future generation is a way to do so. Reports by The Guardian acknowledge that 83% of those killed in Gaza were civilians. These civilian casualties might count as the intent to destroy a national group, with Palestine not having a formal military, showing that rather than self-defense, they are just targeting to wipe out Palestinians. A second breach of international law they have done is causing famine in Gaza. According to the UN Top Court, Israel denying aid into Gaza is a breach of their obligations. As of April 2024, more than 1.1 million people in Gaza are experiencing catastrophic levels of food insecurity. Between March and June 2025, Israel allowed just 56,000 tons of food to enter the territory. In July 2025, more people in Gaza died of starvation in just over 11 days than in the previous 21 months of conflicts, with 86 deaths from 20th to 30th July. It is not only death by starvation, as an additional 271 died while just trying to collect aid, including 12 drowning trying to collect aid dropped by plane. These are clearly breaches of international law, as according to the International Court of Justice in The Hague, Israel should not impede the supply of aid by UN organizations, including the beleaguered UN Palestinian Relief Agency, UNRWA, which has been in effect banned from the territory since January. So let's look at why international law is failing in this context. First, I'll look into the UN Security Council. It is clear there is power imbalance structurally in the UN. The 5 permanent members, China, France, Russia, the United Kingdom, and the United States, known as the P5, have the power to veto any resolution, while the 10 remaining have no veto power and can do nothing about it. On October 18, 2024, just last year, the US voted against 12 states to veto the Security Council's first resolution for a humanitarian pause. In September of 2025, for the whopping 6th time already, the US vetoed a draft resolution at the United Nations Security Council that would have demanded an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Gaza and the release of hostages, even though the other 14 members of the Security Council voted in favor. Despite breaching international law and 14 other states of the Security Council voting in a ceasefire, one member, who is an ally of the perpetrators Israel, managed to deny the aid needed to help Palestine. Now let's look at international courts. Two cases have been brought up against Israel. The first by South Africa in 2023 to the International Court of Justice, and the second, International Criminal Court prosecutors have been investigating potential crimes allegedly committed on the territory of Palestine since March 2021 by anyone Israeli or Palestinian. For the ICJ, cases take many years due to multiple stages. First, the provisional measures, a type of injunction which is an interim court order to prevent or do something. Preliminary objections, where a state may object to the ICJ's jurisdiction in the case, and the merits case, where the court decides whether or not a country has violated international law. Courts also take decisions in each stage which involves parties to make written submissions and oral proceedings, taking further time. In this case, Israel requested and was granted a 6-month extension to file their written submission, which is now not due until January 2026. And we may not expect a hearing on the merits of the case until possibly even 2027. For the ICC, they have to collect huge amount of evidence, which takes a long time, even years, to collect all this evidence. The ICC also has no police force, meaning it relies on member states of the ICC to arrest and surrender wanted fugitives. So, my conclusion on these failures. First, the UNSC is dominated by the veto power of its 5 permanent members, with the veto ability being repeatedly used to render useless decisive actions of political alliances. The use of the veto power of the US has shielded Israel from accountability. This allows Israel to violate international law, such as starving the citizens of Gaza and committing a genocide, to continue without consequence. For the international courts, such as the ICC and the ICJ, their cases taking such a long time by procedural delays and political pressure will only benefit those breaching international laws, which allows them to continue the violation of these laws that will only leave Palestinians without timely justice. This only reveals the weakness in international legal order with its dependence on powerful states, where the Palestinians people's promise of equality, sovereignty, and human rights is not found. Now, what can be done? It is understood the veto is needed for the permanent 5 members because it was a condition for their participation in the UN at its founding in 1945, but it could be restricted. For example, it should not be able for use when the topic of interest is as major as genocide. It would also be beneficial for users of the veto to present a justifiable reason that will lead other voters to agree. It is understood prosecutors need to gather evidence, but when the evidence is clear-cut, like the case of the Israel-Palestine conflict, action should be taken faster, and we should not allow those accused any actions, as it will only allow them to further violate international laws. Obviously, these are hard to implement, but there should be consideration in taking account of changes in the system that enforce international law, as the country should not be able to continuously breach and violate it. That is all I have. Thank you for listening.